Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this morning. I'm here in Ontario. It's a beautiful day. Last night a storm rolled through here, so very interesting to just notice the energies that are coming in. And this morning I'm sitting here with my dear friends Orist and Carolyn, and the three of us are here with some questions for you, some inquiry for you, and a little bit of sharing with you about a beautiful weekend that we'll be creating in July 15th to 17th, called Remembering the Village, an initiation into collective leadership. And so some of the questions that we wanted to just right off the bat drop into the field together to really welcome you into this collective inquiry together is, what are you being called to step into as a leader? And so just to repeat that one more time and to allow that to really come into your space. What are you being called to step into as a leader? And this may push your edges, might feel uncomfortable, might go right over your head. What do you mean? Stepped into being called leader. None of that resonates. So I'm going to repeat that question just one more time. What is it you're being called to step into as a leader? What is being asked to be born through you as a leader? How are you being called to step deeper into service? And as we spiral into the depth of these questions and the possibilities of where that inquiry might lead you, my next question is, what is in the way? What is in the way of you really experiencing, understanding, embodying, making a choice to lead? What fears, what beliefs, what stories? What is it that is holding you back from fully stepping forward on your path as a leader in service?
Hello, Tanya.
And so I'd love to just, now that that inquiry is in the field, I'd love to pass it over. Maybe we'll start with Carolyn, as she is electronically on my left here, and then we'll go to Orist just to speak a little bit more to what we're doing here this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for that wonderful initiation into our conversation, really helping us to step into inquiry right away. And for me, those questions drop me into heart space again. They help me to remember perhaps why I am here, why we are here. So what is being asked of me in terms of stepping into leadership, which is this? And I really love that possibility of inquiry for anybody who is already on the path of leadership, because when we ask that question, so every time we ask a question, it must be answered. And so when I ask myself that question that you just asked, which is, what am I being asked to step into as a leader? It is to explore, to live my prayers, as Orist has shared, this invitation of living our prayers, which is that I crave and desire a village. I crave and desire a village of leaders who are sovereign, who are willing to step into the space of deeper inquiry and curiosity and willingness to see maybe where we have been led astray or where we have made choices that are blocking us from the fullest expression of possibility in our lives. And to look into what it means to heal the masculine-feminine divide that is showing up really clearly for me in terms of leadership. So I see these two aspects of leadership, like a really feminine leadership, women doing women's work and men doing men's work. What could it look like when we come together and maybe heal some of those wounds and then start to collectively lead? So that's where I'm sitting right now.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Yes, you're welcome.
For myself, when I think of the questions that you asked around leadership, Michelle, I recognize that throughout my life, right even from the time that I was a kid, I was always being pushed in leadership roles. I was captain of sports teams, things like that. But I never identified as a leader. I was working in an organization as the manager of that organization, and somehow I didn't identify as a leader. And so when I hear this, it just makes me go, what do I need to do to embody that as part of my identity? Oh yeah, you know what? I am actually a leader. I've been a leader my whole life. And so to really take that on inside. And so that's what I love about this gathering. I know that this is a part of the magic that's going to be created, is a space to just be fully open and present and really allow that to drop in. And for people to define for themselves what that means to them to be a leader. And so I love that masculine, feminine energy dance, and looking at the divide and the wound that might exist for people in that space. When I think of the masculine and feminine, I think about the structure and the flow. And so it's always this art and science between the structure and the flow. We have this masculine structure that creates the banks for the river to flow, and that feminine energy to allow things to flow, and that intuitive right side creative brain just to allow amazing insight, intuition, and ideas and inspiration to flow through us. And then in order to make something happen in the world, kind of to set up that structure to allow that flow to occur. So that's what comes to me. Just, I don't know how deeply we want to get into this, but you had mentioned it earlier, and I think this way anyways, boldness, right? These times are calling for boldness from people who especially want to really connect with sovereign beings and sovereignty in the planet. That's a part of, I think, what's streaming forward from the center of the spiral galaxy is unity consciousness. And it's calling for us to be bold, and it's calling for us to let go of our old ideas about how we think the world should be, because I believe it's moving from this space of survival into this space of thriving. And the skills we learned as leaders in order to survive within organizations or within certain sort of things that we do might not serve us when we step into thriving. I think there's a new skill set that's emerging and being born.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you, Horace. Yes, for those just joining, I see Women Unveiled. Natalie, it's so great for you to be here. Gail, welcome. This is wonderful. We're here talking about some of the behind the scenes of the Remembering the Village workshop happening July 15th and 17th. And when we talk about this masculine, feminine, these banks of the river, the water that flows, for me, it's really important to also recognize and to claim that we have both those masculine and feminine energies within ourselves.
And so how do we begin to develop and understand the way in which our own boundaries, our own structure, our own masculine energy is at play, and how do we acknowledge and begin to build relationship with that feminine energy. And when we look at the reflection, it's from the lens of animism, where we're all connected and everything is speaking to one another. When we look at the world around us, for me, it's very clear. You can see around us the disharmony in the masculine and the feminine energies. You can see the polars pushing against one another. And so in some ways, we've been trained to tend outside of ourselves. I'll find the solution here. I'll change this over there. And this weekend workshop, this initiation, is an opportunity to say, where are the imbalances of the masculine and feminine within myself? How do, as men and women, we come together to reflect some of those stories, some of those wounds, and tend to them? How do we then separate to
specifically nurture the feminine or specifically contribute to the masculine. And it's wonderful that Natalie's on this call, because she'll be coming on this weekend to facilitate some shadow work practices where we really go in and we explore, what are the stories that you hold? What is the wounding? What is holding you back? When we think of like anything that we're projecting onto others, what an opportunity in the container that is held, where being brave is the ask. How do we then look inside and say, maybe it's not about you. Maybe this is an opportunity for me to go within and to tend to some of that, to acknowledge, to heal, to transform, and step forward on the other side of that experience so that we can lead and walk in a new way. So this, when we talk about leading from a place of wholeness, that's the process of transmutation that we're referencing, to go inwards, identify these stories, work these stories with different tools and processes, so that on the other side we can see a path from a perspective and a lens that we might not have been able to see it before.
That's so beautiful. I would love to build on that just a little bit. One of the conversations that we've had recently, Michelle, is about, you know, what it means to step into this village space as a leader, and what happens on the other side of the experience of the initiation. And also, maybe side question, but what does it mean to be an uninitiated leader? So that might be a whole other discussion. But when I think of the village, what I really feel and sense and start to embody already is this knowing that I have a sacred role to play within the village. And that is what's being called of me. So there's always something seeking to emerge in, through, and as me. It's spirit. Spirit is speaking always and always asking these questions. It's like divine ideation is always moving through. So when I tune into that, I get curious about it. And yet I don't always have the spaces and the people to explore that with. So this is an opportunity to move into a space of deeper exploration and to try things on. So to be in a village experience where you can actually embody a role, embody a new possibility, gain feedback, and look for maybe ways that we're being blocked or stuck. And then on the other side of that, on the other side of the initiation, this experience is the potential to now bring those leadership skills and clarity back to your community. So we all lead community in different ways. You know, this container we're creating is absolutely a form of a microcosm of the bigger. And yet we all recognize that as sovereign leaders, we have our own unique little satellites, our own possibilities of leadership that are moving through us, that are expressing through us. So I just wanted to point that out because we had that discussion recently.
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah.
I think what's coming to mind for me is that I show up in a group of people as an individual, and more along the lines of a conscious leadership kind of a approach is always keeping in mind the collective impact. So that I come as an individual, I can engage in a group, and I'm always looking out for the collective impact of the decisions that are being made as part of, especially in when we look at the village, right? We have an impact on others in the way that we show up, in the way that we do things, in the way that we communicate with one another, and so it speaks to whatever those underlying values are, and so to get into an exploration about some of those underlying values and see where there might be room for growth or what needs to be let go of and things like that. Inside that container, there's also a space for really deeply being present, because there's energy that's flowing. It's call it spirit, call it unity consciousness, call it whatever you want to call it, that we can tune into, but it's like being that hollow bone. We can allow things to flow through our system, and like incredible things, magical, miraculous things to show up that could never have come from my intellect or from in my brain, right? But if I'm not present to those things, then they don't have an opportunity to pop in. And so even this morning's discussion, just allowing things to flow and allowing ourselves to be open in that space, heart-centered space of openness, allowing things to flow through us that want to come through and to be shared with people. And obviously this workshop experience is not for everyone, but to speak to the ones that it is for, like Michelle said, those ones that are called. And how do you know that you're being called? Because the words and the things that are being shared resonate deeply in your heart. Maybe if you're getting a little misty eyed and you're, got some tears flowing, or you get that nice, energy that's, electric on your arms, or the goosebumps or whatever. This to me are indicators that, guess what? You're being called. When it speaks to your heart, when it speaks to a deeper part of your soul and that knowing thing, then you're being called.
Thanks, Doris. And the thing that I'm continuing to learn every day is when it comes to even leading your own life, to answering, responding to this call, no one said it was going to be easy. It's not always going to be comfortable. It very well might and likely will brush against the edges of what you thought to be true, or potentially even who you thought you were. And the invitation is, what is it like to do it anyways? To lean right in and say, I am so willing to let go of everything that I've tethered myself to, so that I can be taken by that river to where it is I'm meant to go next, so that I can be in this ever evolving process of becoming. And when we speak to the village, remembering the village, I feel it's important
to recognize and to name that in North America, Western culture right now, we live in a fragmented version of community. And so this workshop is not a promise that you're going to find that forever community, because we would be letting you down by making that promise. What instead we are responding to this call from ourselves is to bring people together, people
who are willing, ready, and able to be in that discomfort of unlearning, of challenging our beliefs, of sharing difficult stories so that we can come through the other side. And this village is a mentality. It's a way of being more than it is a destination, a location, or a group of specific people. And this village mindedness for me is about knowing that there will be moments where I stand alone. And as a leader, often leaders will stand alone, but to be connected to something greater than yourself, so that you can continue to respond to that call, that forward momentum. And there will be moments of stillness where you're asked to stop, to listen, to look, to feel. And sometimes that might be alone, and that's okay, because what this weekend workshop is, it's a remembering that even in those moments when you're standing alone, you've been initiated into a collective. You are now part of a constellation that's greater than you, where you can connect to that energy and receive some of that support, even when those individuals aren't physically around. And the witness piece, the collective, the village mentality is that we will witness one another in these processes of transformation. We will witness each other in moments of vulnerability, of fear, of whatever it is, resistance. And we will witness one another, because even within that, being seen for all of yourself, not having to hide or pretend or dismiss, deny, there is medicine in that, and being witnessed as you are is an evolution. It's part of that process of becoming as well.
That's so beautiful. So we've been chatting for a while. So how shall we start to kind of wrap up the container and maybe offer opportunity? Maybe we can do this again. Maybe we can come back again with a new exploration, new questions, new possibilities.
Beautiful. I'm curious, we're doing that. We're on the subject of calling in. So perhaps we could close with a round where we just speak to the who. If this is you, we're calling you in.
Yes, I love it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll start happily. So some of the words that really came through that we're actually using might start to resonate. And I love what Ora spoke to, is that if you hear it in your heart, if you feel it, it's because there's a resonance. There's something within you that's calling you. And the words that like really stand out to me are sovereignty and also willingness. So those two components of who you might be. And sovereignty to me is the willingness or the choice to lead yourself. So to know that there's a trust there, an ability or a willingness to actually, step up into that space, even when it's uncomfortable, or as Michelle said, even when you're standing alone sometimes, but to trust that so deeply that you know that you're being called, that there is something that is essential within your own experience, within your own knowing, that needs to be part of the collective, that needs to be in our experience of the village, of the greater village, not just what we're creating for one weekend, but what could this mean if you were to fully embody leadership? What could this mean for your community? You're feeling called in such a deep way to share, to expand, to bring together, that there's a resonance. There's a resonance there. So the words I'm using again are sovereignty and willingness.
What's coming through to me around just some words, I mentioned it earlier. One of them is boldness. Michelle talked about bravery. I want to throw courage in there. I know that we're all talking about authenticity and being authentically aligned with our truth and having avenues of expression for that truth. I know, I just want to acknowledge Michelle for a quick second here in terms of when she set up the tier payment system with 3 levels, I think made it accessible to so many people rather than going, oh, here's the high end price, or here's the low end price, or it's in between. And it just made it so easy for people. And I had somebody else comment when they saw the pricing and they were taking a look at things, they're like, that's brilliant. So thanks for coming up with that. If it was both of you, or if Michelle came up with it, but I think that it's accessible for everyone, and that the things that people are going to walk away from, to me, it's all about access anyway inside. Sovereignty. It's not just a thing in my mind. It's as part of my being. And if I move away from that and I become disconnected, it's just remembering that we've created access points that are anchored inside of us that we can come back to. And so really a lot about access is a big word. Being clear, being open, being grounded, and being able to access, because we can always go back to that capacity that's been developed. And so we're going to enhance people's capacity for leadership. We're going to enhance people's understanding of what it means for them to be a leader, and know that they're connected with a group of sovereign people and sovereign beings. And so we can access that anytime. And that to me is a huge thing, especially when we come into those times where we're standing on our own and wondering, what, am I really doing the right thing here? Accessing the memory and that capacity to really fully embody that sovereign leadership, and recognizing, what, this is just a part of the journey. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, my words are a vision. It's an image right now. And I'm calling in those individuals, if this is you, if you see yourself standing at a fork in the road, if it's that time in your life where you've been waiting or debating or questioning, or really being in that deep wondering of what else is possible, what am I meant to do here? If you believe in things like soul purpose and path and destiny, if you believe in change, if you're a visionary and what you're experiencing around you isn't connected to that vision, and you're at that fork in the road and you're wondering, which way do I go? Perhaps this is an opportunity for you to explore that route that you've been calling in, that you've been, everything you've done up until this moment has been leading you towards. I have this image of a bridge where it's like, may this experience, may this weekend workshop be a bridge to help carry you from where you are to where you have seen yourself being, to where you've seen the world can get, what it's like to move from a place of fragmentation with self and others across that bridge to a place of belonging, of wholeness, of transformation, of confidence. And if you're really looking to have that somatic experience, to know in your body, what does it feel like to lead? What does it feel like to trust my intuition, my inner wisdom, to move that knowledge from the mind where we spend so much energy and focus and priority in Western culture, and to move that down into the heart, into the belly, the groin? What is it like to make decisions from a different place? And I'm really calling in all of those people who have stumbled their way into this space with us, either now or later. Thank you. And if you feel afraid, if there's something about this where you see yourself among us, and yet there is something that is pulling you back or making you resist or doubt or question, I want to like reach out my hands to you and say, this is specifically for you. And I've seen you in that circle. I've seen you addressing those stories and those fears. I've seen you showing up. I've seen you crying and laughing. I've seen you questioning everything that you thought you knew. And I've seen you smiling at the end of that experience, saying, I never knew that something like this was possible. And I see myself doing the same thing, being like, yeah, me too. I'm there with you. And I really look forward to the time where this conversation continues to spiral into the here and now, where we're standing on the land together in circle and continue to be in this deep inquiry. And I'd like to end with the same questions that we began with. And may this be a guiding post on your journey throughout the day and the weeks to come. What is it that you're being asked to step into as a leader? And what is it that's in the way or holding you back? If you'd like to reach out to any of the three of us, I'm sure the buttons will be somewhere on this video. And thank you so much for your presence, for your courage and your patience to be here. And again, we're calling you in, remembering the village, an initiation into collective leadership. July 15th to 17th, just 20 minutes outside of Edmonton.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.